And welcome to yet another edition of GMAT Club's YouTube series. That introduction was actually a little misleading. This is not an NBA spotlight just quite yet. That starts tomorrow, and I'll dive into that a little bit. But for those of you who do not know me, my name is Evan, also known by my forum name, Nightblade354. And today we're doing a debrief of one of GMAT Club's very own. But before we go into that, before we go into all the fun, some of you have questioned where I was over the last couple of weeks, maybe months, maybe it was years. I mean, how do I know? I barely keep track of this stuff. And I want to assure each and every one of you that this had absolutely nothing to do with a contractual disagreement on any side. So there was no dispute. So we are back. We're good to go. A few key announcements before, again, we dive into all the fun that we have in store for Shubham, who volunteered for this. I think he may be clinically insane to do so, but that's neither here nor there. First announcement is about the GMAT Club MBA Fair. That is beginning next week. Thank you. I can't pronounce your name. I sincerely apologize. Ignorant American that I am. The GMAT Club MBA Fair is coming up next week. Starting tomorrow, we're going to be having a whole host of events around business schools themselves, one-on-ones with adcoms, talks with student panels, you name it. A lot of great information, a lot of great stuff to be had there, and I highly encourage anybody who is looking to apply to business schools this year or next, anytime in the future, to attend these events. They're a lot of fun, and they can give you maybe the leg up that you're looking for. Our second announcement, this one's actually the most fun, and it brings up the message that I put in the chat down there, and I'll leave that here for the time being. We are going to do a phrase that pays. So this is going to be a little bit new to the GMAT Club YouTube series. What it means is at some point, we are going to have what I am calling the wacky GMAT Club weasel run around here somewhere. Now, this wacky weasel is responsible for GMAT Club tests, and he is going to be, at some point, dropping a message to me, which I will relay to you active listeners. When that happens, go on gmatclub.com, message me directly with the phrase that pays. And the first person that does that, maybe even the first couple of people, depending on how lenient the weasel wants to be, will get free GMAT Club tests for 2 weeks. So again, I'm not going to say when that's going to be. It could be in 2 minutes, it could be in 10, could be in 20, could be in an hour. It won't be in an hour, but you get the point. When you hear that phrase that pays, you go on the GMAT Club and you message me. Again, from the wacky GMAT Club weasel. So that's what we're looking for. Third, any questions that you have will be answered, assuming we have enough time. We need to end strictly at 1:15, which is an hour and 5 minutes from now. We have to end right at 1:15 Eastern Standard Time. For those of you who ask questions that we don't get to, please post them in the YouTube channel under this video. Either myself, Shubham, or somebody else will answer them. And lastly, folks, we are doing this. Shubham is doing this again. He volunteered completely free of charge. And by that, I mean he's not, we're not paying for him to be here. He's not being compensated by anyone or anything. He's not being paid by Target Test Prep. He's not being paid by GMAT. He's not being paid by us. Everything he says is completely unbiased, and frankly, that's the point of this, is to get unbiased, straightforward information that can help you. With that said, monologue for 4 minutes. Damn, I'm good. Shubham, they're here to hear you, not to hear me. Let's hear about yourself, buddy. Give us a quick intro.
All right. So, hello, everyone. I'm Shubham Suraj. So I recently graduated from KIT University, Bhubaneswar. My specialization was electronics and electrical engineering. Post that, I onboarded at Accenture as a developer in the month of October 2020. On the weekends, I am usually a Toastmaster. That is basically because I am very much inclined towards public speaking. So that's more or less about me, and let's get started.
Wonderful. Well, that's going to come in handy for this. Again, any mistake you make or I make is only going to be amplified by a couple of thousand-fold on top of that. So good you're a public speaker. We want to tease out as much information as possible, so let's get started then. I guess you and I talked about this briefly. folks, the way this is going to work is we're going to start with Shubham's first test. And we're going to move to the second, the third, and the fourth. And the goal is to see how he was able to improve and get to such a fantastic score from really it's not a bad score. In the 500s isn't a bad score, but it's not an elite score. But Shubham ended with an elite score. So we're going to see sort of the progression there and how he was able to do it. So Shubham, with that said, we sort of understand why you want to take the GMAT. You want to go to business school. You want to get an MBA. You want to have a nice life. Who doesn't? Talk to me about what you were doing for your first test. Talk to me about your schedule. Talk to me about the practice test you took. Did you first take an initial practice test, or did you do it later? What was that process like?
So yeah, starting with why I plan on taking the GMAT. After I was placed, I started vibing about whether this is the job that I really want to do. I was not sure whether I want to settle with this job or not, and it was too early in my career to just think that, okay, this is what I want to do. So in order to explore, I went ahead exploring all the postgraduate opportunities that might be. And I ended up telling myself that I want to take up early career programs, which is the Masters in Management, basically. So Masters in Management, for the good programs that you want to apply to, you need to, you're supposed to be a recent graduate, all with up to 2 years of work experience, not beyond that. That means my eligibility was pretty restricted, and I had a timeline that I should at least have a decent 3 months to work on my applications and end with my GMAT as soon as possible. So I was the kind of a person who just stubbornly ran into the preparation without doing much of a research. It was just like,
Yep.
I want to go abroad, I want to study, I want to get into the preparation. So in my college, after my placements were done, I was doing nothing but just partying every day because there was nothing else to do after you're placed. So that's the time where I thought that I need a change in my environment, and I switched cities. I went to some other city and I started preparing for my GMAT. I thought that it's more like about a student, that he has to be serious and not entirely about the coaching that he's taking up. But that was a wrong thought that I had. I just stuck to the closest coaching that I had, and I thought of taking up a physical classroom course. So I ended up enrolling myself into IMS. So I went into it, and you'll be shocked. They completed the entire process, the entire classes in just 1.5 to 2 months, including
Wow.
quant and verbal. But that's not how it goes. We were just blindly solving questions, not really paying heed to the concepts, which is a wrong approach when it comes to GMAT. Absolutely. However, I didn't gain much out of it. I was just practicing. But it wasn't absolutely useless because I got to know about the demand of GMAT in the professional sphere. The people who were studying along with me, they were from varying backgrounds. A few of them left their jobs after 5 years just to sit and study because they had lost touch. Then people who are working along with studying. And then there was me. The only wise decision that I made was I started pretty early. I was a student. I had full time to give to GMAT. And I was so enthusiastic that I just blindly went into some coaching. This is what I gained out of it. Nothing much academically or knowledge perspective. One more advice that I received from people over there is this. You might have also come across this a lot of time, is that you should book your GMAT exam well in advance so that there is seriousness. Right? This is what I've heard, and I booked it instantly. I booked it after I completed my prep. My classes were over after 2 months, and I booked my GMAT. And then what happened is, all of a sudden, my onboarding date comes in. So I've got to onboard my job, which was followed by a 1 month training over a particular software, which is completely new to me. And I had to balance my studies as well. However, I was just blindly solving questions from the official guide and the books that they had provided me, the pre-course, the pre-class and the post-class materials that I've had. And I was blindly solving questions, and I appeared for the exam. This was my preparation for the first attempt, if that's what you wanted me to tell you. So I ended up scoring 620 after almost 6 months of preparation. That was my first attempt, and it was a physical in-center exam.
Very nice. All right. I want to sort of take us back. You gave us a lot of information there, a lot of great information. And you did hit on a lot of things I want to talk about, which is you gave us a timeline. You said, I want 3 months. Well, 6 months later, you got a good score. 620 isn't a bad score.
640, yeah.
I'm sorry, 640, even better. That's not a bad score for 6 months of studying. But you were dealing with life. You were dealing with, I guess, what you would define as a not great experience with a GMAT prep company. So you had a lot of stuff going on. You still scored a 640, though. I want to know if we can step back here. When did you take your first practice exam? And what was the score? And how long were you studying each day, and what resources were you using to help you prep?
All right, yeah. So I might have missed this point. When I started preparing for the GMAT, I was pretty overconfident that I'm going to get through it within 3 to 4 months. Because during our placements, we were already giving computer adaptive exams, and it was mostly quantitative aptitude and verbal reasoning. So I thought that, I'm going to apply the same strategies and I probably might just excel. I just had to do rigorous practicing and I would do that. So before my GMAT, I already had a good foundation in quantitative ability and verbal due to my placements. But it wasn't specifically GMAT that I was preparing for, right? So post that, I spent almost every day, I made sure that I solved 40 questions of quant per day. But my time, the time that I contributed for my preparation was varying. I wasn't disciplined that time, to be very honest. I just uh, solved questions when I got the time. Wasn't really
Mm-hmm.
disciplined. I thought I just need to finish my mark. It was like 10 questions in the morning, 10 in the afternoon, 10 in the evening, and 10 at night. Probably that would not harass me a lot. So that's what I thought about. That really didn't work out for me. To be very honest, I took a diagnostic test that we say before we begin with our preparations,
Mm-hmm.
and I had scored a 580, which is there in my title as well over here. That was
Yep.
480 in my first diagnostic test. That's what I scored. And I was completely devastated to know that after being prepared for quantitative ability and verbal for my placements, this is the result because a lot of factors in GMAT, right? Playing with the candidates psychologically and the time based environment that you have. So those things really got on my nerves and I messed up.
Okay, so you were putting in doing 40, 50 questions a day. You came in maybe overconfident. Again, sounds like there was some interference with your life, but in general, you were putting a lot of time into this. How was your breakdown when it came to questions? So you were doing questions, were you then reviewing them and breaking them down? Or were you simply doing them and saying, well, I got it wrong, I got it right, time to move on?
So yeah, for GMAT, it should be quality over quantity. But I was doing the other way around. If I
Okay.
had 2 hours, if I had 2 hours, I should probably take up that one question which was causing the hindrance in my progress, and I should have analyzed that. But what I was doing was my aim was to finish 40 to 50 questions within those 2 hours, anyhow, no matter what it takes. I might skip them, I might
Jeez.
make them wrong. That's what I was doing. So wasn't a very good approach, I would say.
Okay. Which actually sort of, I mean, that answered one question of mine. I want to hear a little bit about how you decided to focus on one over the other. You were doing a ton of questions a day. Were they mostly quant? Were they mostly verbal? Were they a mix? How did you decide which areas to focus on, at least for your first test?
So So I believe that I was good at quantitative aptitude, but
Yep.
then I got introduced to data sufficiency, where I could not assume things. For instance, I was in the habit, if I saw in the inequalities a minus x, I took it as negative, whereas it's a variable, right? A constant could be assigned to it and it could become a positive number, right? So those were the traps which I really didn't reflect upon, and I thought that I wouldn't commit such silly mistakes. But in GMAT, there is silly mistakes, to be very honest. Uh,
Yes, there are.
yeah, quite a lot of them. So, however, I tried to maintain sticky notes in my room. Whatever faults that I was making, I maintained the sticky notes. But yet again, discipline, which was what was lacking in me. I should be looking at it every single day, right? But I wasn't. And time and again, I was committing these mistakes. When I went for my first attempt, you wouldn't believe I missed 3 questions on the quant section. and apparently I was penalized. Uh, I don't think that the questions that I got were very difficult for me, but the problem was I was taking almost 5 to 6 minutes to solve small questions as well. My process, the way I used to solve questions, were pretty lengthy. Entire page used to get filled with calculations. I wasn't doing it mentally. I was doing it all on with pen and paper, which is a bad habit.
Okay.
And that took a heavy toll on me, due to which I missed questions. I wasn't really into reading back then. So RC, my God, that's the worst nightmare of mine. RC specifically. And I know you being like the person who preaches RC, I know, but this was my Achilles heel, to be very honest. Yep, that's what it is.
I mean, I am on the verbal side of things. I'm more about
Ah,
preaching about CR, but I do have an affinity for RC as well. Um, all right, so it sounds like it was kind of a mix. It was overconfidence on the quant side and maybe not totally encapsulating everything you needed to, whereas on verbal, you were truly weak and you needed to beef up there. So the yeah, first test, but even still, you still got 640 on your first attempt, even with these weak areas. Uh, I want to know how was your studying impacting your life in the first go around?
yep.
Was it, were you maintaining a work life balance, or was it simply everything is GMAT and I don't need to have a life?
So if I tell you this, that 640 was the score which changed my mentality. Even I thought the same
Interesting.
thing. Okay, first attempt 640, I scored good, right? And that's what led me to my second mistake. Second biggest mistake is in that overconfidence, I went ahead and booked my another GMAT just after 1.5 months, and and that's pretty close. The time corridor wasn't enough for me to improve. So I booked my exam and I thought this time let's pick up another OG and let's get done with that as well. Complete all the questions out there. So I went ahead, I picked up OG 20 and I started solving it rigorously. It was brand new that time. So I thought, okay, I've got that golden key to my success. So if I complete this, this would really work out for me. So I started solving that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, I was about to say
Yeah.
OG is a proper way to go about it for verbal. But you need to evaluate them and you need also use them sparingly because there's a finite amount. And if you burn through them, you're kind of
Yep.
screwed.
Yep. Yep.
there's no way
So
there's no way around that. You're screwed.
yeah. Yep.
So it sounds like you may have
Absolutely.
learned that lesson too, at least on the first go around of this.
So that's when I got introduced to the GMAT club. Let me tell you the interesting
Ah,
story how I got
GMAT
acquainted
Club.
to how I got acquainted to GMAT club.
Shirts
Now,
available online, by the way.
suddenly, so what happened is every other question that I was faltering on, or whichever puny doubt that I had in my mind, I always tried to Google it. And guess what? Which was the first one in the result section? GMAT Club. For every query that I had, it led me to GMAT Club, which ultimately made me create my account. And then I started going through the success stories. Now, the reason why one should go through those debriefs, like people are not mad writing around, 1,000, 2,000 word debriefs. Those are a lot of data in that. And those were the ones which came to my escape, and those are the best free resources that you can have out there for free. That's the best part. So to encourage myself for the second attempt, I went through a lot of these debriefs on GMAT Club, and thanks to that, my reading, I became a keen reader as well, because if I was sitting and reading for a debrief for 40 minutes, that's a lot of time that I'm investing. That's where I got to know about how I can start practicing on GMAT Club. After that, many people would disagree with me, but they say that the OG is like the Bible of GMAT. But after this, I stopped using the OG. Reasons: number one, it has only one solution only. That means you're constrained to that. What if it does not click to you, right? What if that is not what you're comfortable with? You end up by hearting it, which is very unwise. Whereas on GMAT Club, for every question, if you just scroll down, there's an article a chain of solutions. So many experts coming in and providing their own method to solve it. Choose yourself which one suits you the best and go ahead with that. Bunuel, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Bunuel solutions. Within 4 steps, he'll solve a 700 level questions. And I was like, what kind of a technique is this? And I was really impressed by that. Uh,
Uh,
so I I started spending a lot of time on GMAT Club. So that gave me a lot of confidence, to be honest. So this was the transition from a person who was not practicing from GMAT Club and sticking to OGs and randomly practicing questions to at least having some fundamental planning that, okay, fine, GMAT Club, debriefs, I go through the content, practice. So my practice, the way I practice, that improved. But still, if you see the concepts part, I still wasn't investing a lot. So this was, I hope this is what you wanted to know.
yeah, absolutely. First things first, you got on GMAT Club, which is the best thing in the world. So kudos. To your point, reading debriefs can be it's just such an invaluable resource. It can give you so much insight if you're feeling down or you need motivation. Best way to go about it. Bunel, as it's pronounced, is an AI-based computer algorithm. For everyone who's disappointed and was hoping it would be a human being, it is not. And it is quite intelligent, far more than myself. So follow Bunel if you are struggling with Quant. The things that the algorithm produces are, frankly, it's beyond anything really. I mean, the thing could work for NASA if it wanted to. Um, but you brought in a lot of really great points. You identified your weak areas. You identified where you were struggling. You came to probably the best resource in the world. Now I want to hear how you utilize that to improve your score from a 640 to your 740. And in case you're wondering, I did not read your debrief. I like to go in these blind. It makes it more fun because I'm learning as our audience is learning. If I know everything about you already, I may miss something.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm going in it like a blind man because a lot of our audiences too. But take me through. Well, actually, first, how many tests did you do between 640 and 740? Was it 640 740, or was it 640? No, 680 710 740. What was that like?
So in total, I gave 4 attempts. So this was my second attempt in which my score fell down by 20 points more. But it went to 620.
So it went from
Yep.
640 to 620. Okay. So I want to hear about that. And so is our audience. What were you doing differently, and what happened to cause that drop?
Yeah. I wouldn't sugarcoat it, but honestly, I was lucky the first time. I got reading comprehension passages which I was able to comprehend, I would say, and I'd not have to reread, but that wasn't the case in the second attempt. Biological comprehensions are something which just goes over my head, to be very honest.
Mm-hmm.
Civics and biology, these are the ones which just went over my head. So the reason why it fell down to 620 and I was completely disheartened, I stopped my preparation for almost 15 days, I would say. 15 days, I just stopped. I thought, okay, MIM is not my thing, GMAT is not my thing. I'm going to take it after 1 year, 2 years, because I was also getting into a new role with a full time job where I had obligations to follow as well. So
Yep.
it wasn't very wise for me to just keep on going up with GMAT. And it really got tough for me after that because a drop of 20 points is just like, what am I doing? And another
Mm-hmm.
thing which I did not mention is I enrolled into another course. This time, it wasn't a physical offline class because pandemic and all of us were constrained to home. So I went to this course which everyone knows is EGMAT. Great. So
Ah,
I
yes.
so I went ahead. I was so impressed by the marketing that I again stubbornly went in and enrolled myself and I started practicing there. However, the quant, I don't feel that it's up to the mark. It was the same process that I was solving questions in lengthy ones. Now, coming about the loopholes of an online pre-recorded course, it might work for you. It didn't work for me. So that's why I would like to specify what are the pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
The way you ask doubts, there's a forum where you literally have to type out your doubt, and the people are based in the US and I'm in India, so there's almost a waiting period of 12 hours for one doubt to be
Ooh.
clarified, right? And I'll tell you the most hilarious part. There were times where I received, could you please elaborate on your question? That means I had to again write my entire doubt, send it to them, and wait for another 12 hours. By then, the essence of the doubt is lost, right? I've moved on. I've moved on from that. So that didn't work out for me. And the way they were solving Quant, I really didn't like it because that's what I was using. Didn't really find it very insightful. But yeah, the Scholaranium, of course. Scholaranium is like something which the GMAT tests that we can have sectional tests over there and all those. Those were a little handy for me. But again,
Mm-hmm.
you see, I'm just practicing all this while, nothing related to concepts. That was where I was faltering and I was not able to identify up till now. So
That
within
sounds frustrating.
yeah, that sounds frustrating. Absolutely. By my after my second attempt, I felt like I was in a never-ending loop where I thought that GMAT is now a part of my life and it's never going to leave me probably. So within 1 month, I lost my motivation from eGMAT and I left the course. Was really, but here is the good part. The only good part about eGMAT is it gives you 3 months of subscription to GMAT Club tests, which were very handy to me. So I did not activate it then and there. I kept it for my final days because I know I'm still not there. I wanted to keep it
Mm-hmm.
as my final weapon where I could rigorously practice those 1100, 1200 questions, right? I believe, yeah. So I wanted to keep that for my end game. So I did not activate it. I gave my second attempt. It was another offline exam. I was very reluctant to take the online exam due to this power fluctuations and all. And
Yep.
I really didn't want to have anything in my head. But another problem with the offline GMAT was the mask rule, which could get very uncomfortable with you. And the other one is I did not have any test center in my city, so I had to travel to my capital almost 3 hours to take a test. And
Uh,
after traveling, if you have to answer a 3.5 hours exam, that's not really pleasant, right?
mm-mm.
So I was already tired after the journey, and that really reflects over there because by the time I reached AWA, I was probably drooling off to sleep. So I scored a 620, nothing new, nothing really worked out. I was just spending hundreds of dollars into coachings without proper research. Now, again, something for our viewers. GMAT Club has all these courses rated and users reviews. If I would have gone there and I would have read all the negative reviews also, probably it would have worked out for me, right? But I was just trying to analyze it myself. I was not putting in a lot of research into what should I opt for. So for the second attempt, I would say
Mm-hmm.
I was left disheartened, broken, and I thought I'm giving up on my dreams. GMAT is not the exam for me. That was the full stop at second attempt.
All right. Wow, very detailed. To recap, so between your first and your second exam, you picked up EGMAT, EGMAT, however they want to pronounce it. Even I'm confused about how they pronounce it. You didn't like it. You felt Quant was probably a little short. It sounds like your verbal didn't improve that much either. Uh, and so you're feeling demotivated. If I may press a little bit on the prep side, were you breaking down questions more, or were you doing the same thing you did during the first exam, which was brute force my way through 50, 60, 100 questions a day and learn that way? Or were you breaking them down more? Were you analyzing and were you shifting towards that approach?
Yeah. So this time I got the gold. I got this golden platform. GMAT Club is like a software. If you know how to
And you joined
use
GMAT
it, if
Club.
you know how to, yeah, yeah. It's just not a club or a forum where people meet and speak, right? It's not a get-together place. It's a software. If you know how to use it, you can leverage it to your potential, to be very honest. So this time I started exploring GMAT Club a lot. And one of the best decisions that I made is I subscribed to the question of the day. No matter whether you're on Instagram or Gmail, you're habituated to check your mails, you will get a question, one quant and one verbal every day of varying competency level, right? And my problem was I was not ready. I was not starting my preparation, like if I get into the preparation, yeah, I got the flow of it. But the starting part, that was causing the hindrance for me. But when you get that one question from GMAT Club, you start to think, okay, it's just in front of me. Let's try to solve it mentally. And then you try and you fail, apparently. Then after that, you look at this. After that, you look at the solution, and I was like, okay, I wasn't thinking that way because this is not. I don't think GMAT Club specifically follows OG solutions. It has its own unique ways which will help candidates. And just imagine, just a small box, 700 level questions, and a solution is there, right? So that means they're using one of the most concise solutions which is possible. So that gave me that start. One question gave me a start to go ahead with the rest of the day. So this is what worked out for me. I was improving, but not significantly, which would actually help me increase my score. As soon as I hit a 650 point, I was not able to go beyond. Something stopped me, and that was time. That was stress. Because it's a vast syllabus. And if I'm solving a question for coordinate geometry, and yesterday I had done a rigorous practice of ratio proportion, it won't click to me immediately. So it was taking a lot of time. And verbal, of course, you read the question, you have a vague picture of the solution in your mind. Then you look at the question, then you look at the options for them to help you. You look at an option, you feel, okay, this is the right answer. Then you look at another option and you feel, okay, this is also the answer. But then you realize you cannot have two answers. So
No.
that's where you're doomed. That's where you're doomed. You're going wrong somewhere. And I was not spending time to understand where is the point where I'm lacking, which is the point which is causing that hindrance. So that was what was going wrong. And probably when I took that break of 15 days and I reflected on that, and I realized that I was not open to change. I was very reluctant. I was not ready to unlearn the things that I'd learned because I had a full-time job and I was already compromising on that. And there are days where you don't have a good day at office, and then you go back and solve a few questions and you're not solving that correctly. Those days are the worst days, which literally make you cry that I'm not doing good. I'm not good at anything. And that really breaks you. And that is simply because we are not going out of our comfort zone to open up to something new, something different. Timing was my issue. I was not spending time, what was causing the hindrance. So I would like to stop here for my second attempt. This is what I felt in my second attempt, and this is the reason why I believe it went down 20 points. I believe I told nobody about my second attempt because I was embarrassed. Yeah.
There was a lot going on there, a lot
Yep,
mentally.
absolutely. A lot mentally,
Um,
yeah.
and I guess so. My first question, which I want to bridge into your third test, is one. What did you get on your third test? So we've gone from 640 down to 620. What was the third exam?
All right. So here's the game changer. The third
Actually, you know what?
exam
Time out.
was
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Before we go into that, how much time did you take to study between your first and your second exam?
1.5 months.
Okay, so between first and second, 1.5 months, score goes down 20 points. We're coming up to our third exam here. How long did you spend studying, and what was the score for the third one?
So I took 3 months this time, three and a half
So three
months.
months,
Yeah,
and what was the score on it?
660.
Okay, 660. So we broke through that 650 wall that you were struggling with in
Yeah.
3 months. And I guess so. Not to interrupt you, but I want to hear because you said you were not deflated, but you were feeling kind of stuck. You were sort of down the dumps. How were you able to push through that barrier? How were you able to push through that wall to say, "This is my exam. I'm going to own it. I'm going to go to business school, and I'm going to do well on this exam." Because as you said, that could be completely demoralizing. It can break you, and most people at that point would quit. They say, screw it, I'll go to GRE, or you know what, business school isn't that good anyways. So what
Yeah.
did you do aside from using question of the day to help restart that drive?
Thank you for bringing that up, Evan. Yeah, there was a point where I thought, okay, fine. probably GMAT is not the exam for me. I should go to GRE. I had made up my mind, to be very honest. Uh, so, but then I thought, I'm 8 months into the preparation, 8 months, almost 8 to 10 months. Why would I give up on such a progress and I go to an exam where I'll have to start from scratch? Would be very unwise. And I was pretty determined with GMAT. I don't know, this was an intuition, not much research, but intuition that I want to take GMAT. That's it. Uh, and it becomes a personal challenge for you, right? Because it's just an exam, and why aren't you able to ace it? It becomes a psychological challenge for you that it's just an exam, but I'm not able to ace it, right? So uh, I had removed most of my social media handles to avoid distractions. No Instagram. I tried to stay focused. I was not very social throughout this point. Uh, but then I was very active on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a place where you have a lot of success stories, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
witnessed one of my college seniors scoring a 720 on his first attempt itself. I was just lying there and I was like, how is, I mean, it wouldn't be impossible, right? If a person can score it in the first attempt itself, and then again, the GMAT debriefs, the daily mails that I got from GMAT Club of the success stories, that kept on ringing a bell somewhere at the back of my head that I need to get back. I just cannot give up right now. And my timeline for my GMAT applications was nearing. And I used to get those emails from my B schools as well that this is the round, it's gonna end, next round's gonna begin. That really makes you anxious that I would have been ready if I would have taken up the right path. This time I made up my mind that I'm gonna undo everything. I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to be open to change. And then I was part of a lot of Facebook groups for GMAT and WhatsApp groups as well. So over there, I came across this free orientations and free trials by Mitul Gada and Associates. These are live online classes on the weekends. I thought I don't have much to lose, right? I've anyhow given up on my preparation. So let's just take this trial class and see what's it all about. I went ahead. It's like a 12 hours weekend. Okay, 6 hours Saturday, 6 hours Sunday. That's just the class hours that I'm talking about. And I just lost my stamina from verbal to quant during those classes. That's because I wasn't sitting at a stretch for 4 to 5 hours to practice, right? So these classes changed me entirely. This really worked out for me. I still wouldn't say that it would work out for you. I would suggest go take a trial and look for yourself whether this is the right thing for you or not. What works for me might not work for you because there are students from EGMAT who are acing the exam as well, right? It's working for them. It did not work for me. Mithil Gada and Associates worked for me. I went ahead. I was like, okay, fine. Other students might be just starting, and I probably might be knowing a lot. Sir over there, the tutor over there, just sacked all my methods. He told me this is useless. These are not feasible methods to use on a time-based environment, on a time-based test like GMAT. And I was like, okay, fine. So what are we gonna do? So there were a set of 8 techniques which he preaches in his classes. Techniques like
Sorry, really
yeah,
fast. Somebody
yeah.
wants you to repeat the name of the coach that you used.
All right. Mithul Gada and Associates. Mithul
Awesome. Thank you.
Gada
Please continue.
and Associates. Yeah. So those techniques, a few of them which I'll tell you is following the trend, back solving, plug-in, scaling approximation, etc. Like these. So when I started with this in this class, in the classes, I saw that I was able to solve questions within 2 minutes with these techniques. I did not have to think that, okay, this is the approach for this question. Following the trend is like taking a similar scenario with a smaller number and solving the question. Plug in is again take a random question, take a random number and just plug in, and you might just land up with that same answer in the option. And these solutions are there in GMAT Club, to be very honest. Plugin is there, back solving is there. But the problem is you will have to know which questions to apply, which techniques. If you apply plugin to a question which is of back solving, you will get the wrong answer. So this entire 3 months, I had spent a lot of time unlearning the things that I had learned. that is more difficult than learning new things, to be very honest. We are habituated to things, we are habituated to solve a question in a particular manner, and we don't want to give up. This time I was open to change, and I told myself that this is not working out for me. And guess what? After I spent a lot of time, this time I was not practicing. I was just putting time to my concepts in Nitul Gowda and Associates, and I was going to GMAT club and I was practicing. No OG, no extra materials which would overwhelm a student. There's so many materials out there, you know. You can take up mocks from anyone and you will feel like, okay, what is going on? Some might give you a score of 700, some might give you a score of 500. So you can easily feel overwhelmed with the amount of content out there. But I stuck to only my classes, and for practicing, only GMAT club. That's it. So this time I went for an online GMAT. I had no option. I was still reluctant. I wanted to go for a physical exam, but I had no option because the pandemic, and
Mhm.
it was in a good shape. And I anyhow to travel to some other city, which is even riskier. So due to my work, thank God, a proper power supply and Wi-Fi, everything was installed at home. Everything was fine. A lot of support from my parents, specifically, who were encouraged. By the way, because it was shocking for them. "Oh, this guy is studying. Wow." So they really helped me out, and I made sure that there are no power fluctuations. I borrowed a power backup for my Wi-Fi, so there are no power fluctuations. You need to make sure that there's nothing like that. So I went ahead, and one good thing was there was no AWA that time. So I was finishing my exam half an hour before. It's 660, right? My third attempt.
Mhm.
If I tell you about my distribution of scores, you will be stunned. I got a Q50 in my quant, a direct Q50 in my quant, but a V28 on my verbal. So you see,
Ah,
so you
please
see,
continue.
wasn't synchronized the way I wanted it to be. I'll tell you the reason why. In the quant section, when I completed my section, I had 4 minutes left. And my last three questions, I did not even use the whiteboard. I solved it mentally because it was so easy for me. I don't know why. And that changed and this is where GMAT plays their psychological games. You know, it's a computer adaptive exam, and I was expecting difficult, higher competency levels to appear towards the end. But to my surprise, these were very easy questions. You know, one might say that what is easy for you might be difficult for them. I would disagree. It was really easy, I'm telling you, because I did not use my whiteboard. And with this psychology, I continued my verbal. And throughout my verbal, I was overthinking that what is it that I made? What was that mistake that I committed in quant? And probably that was just a trial question which GMAT puts to see how a candidate reacts, right? But what I was thinking about it all the time. And for verbal, you have on an average even less than 2 minutes per question. So if you're overthinking about your prior section, then you're going to mess up. And that's what happened. I went on rereading my RC passages. I was not able to understand my critical reasoning because at the back of my head, there was this quant section which I messed up, right? That ruined my verbal. So to summarize, sticking to GMAT Club, forgetting about OG
Mhm.
completely. Uh, and yeah, there are a couple of things which I want to say specifically how GMAT Club helped me. Would you want me to continue, or like do you have something in between to ask me?
My only question was, well, first clarifying, you need to stick to OG for verbal. Just for anyone who was listening,
Hmm.
LSAT and OG only thing for verbal, but for quant you can use almost any source you want. So just clarify that. My only question though was, did you start to focus more, because I think it is such a huge part of the GMAT, were you finally focusing on the quality of your prep and not the quantity? Where you were breaking down questions, you were actively focusing on them, or were you still in that mindset of quantity, quantity, quantity? I need to bang out as many as I can.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up. So this time, Mithil sir always says this, you know, like formulas are the antonyms of concepts. For all the other coachings that I went for, they always used to give me a page or two full of formulas. learn by heart them, and that would be handy. To be very honest, you don't really need formulas for GMAT, honestly. Besides solid geometry, yeah, of course, you don't really need a lot of formulas. So there were I did not have to by heart a lot of things. It was all intuition. Now, here is where I would say why I said not OG and GMAT club is because there's this very interesting, this is the most golden resource for me for verbal, which I stuck to throughout. And this is where I want the listeners to listen even more carefully. There's something which is called as mega threads on the GMAT club. Mega threads are nothing but an entire free course for you. You have materials, you have questions, everything. For quantitative section, for CRRC, everything. That's why I spent so much time that I could go through the concepts there. I could go through the materials there. I could even practice. So I did not have to stick to OG. So this is the reason why. Besides this, another two things which you just brought up and I was about to say. For my reading comprehension and RC, I stuck to two free resources, which again I got to know from GMAT Club debriefs. One is videos by Thursdays with Ron, and the other one is GMAT Ninja. I have went through almost all of their videos. Each video is of 1.5 hours. It does take a lot, to be very honest. It does. But I went through all of them. And that is where I got to know about these LSAT reading comprehensions, which you just spoke about. GMAT Ninja, our guy. I
Love
borrowed
hearing LSAT.
I borrowed a book from one of my friends who had attempted LSAT, the Pass Score LSAT reading comprehension book, and I just completed that. Just completed that. And once you are done with that, GMAT passages are a cakewalk for you. Your viewers will be very
Yes.
happy to hear this. It's a cakewalk for you. That's a
Damn
magic book
straight.
that you have,
I
isn't
love it.
it?
I'm a little upset you weren't using my reading comprehension guide, but that's okay. That's okay. I'll live. Before
if
we continue, so you are hitting on everything that I wanted to discuss because it sounds like we're getting into the fourth exam now. In your prep for your fourth exam, correct? Excellent. Before we
Yep.
do that, I've been told that the wacky GMAT Club Weasel has been let free. It crawled up my leg. I kid you not. For all those listening, it actually gave me a note, completely above board. The thing snuck up my pant leg, brought me a note while we were doing this, and it wants me to read it. This is legit, folks. This is an actual note from the GMAT Club Weasel. It says, from the Weasel itself, I doth decree. Okay, the thing's obviously an English lord. I doth decree that on this Friday, the 13th of June, it's a Sunday, but frankly, you know what? I'm surprised the Weasel can even write, so I'm going to give it to him. I decree on this Friday, the 13th of June, that the first person to message Sir Nightblade, oh, he's too kind, with the following phrase will be gifted free 2-week GMAT Club tests. The phrase that will pay is, and I quote, GMAT Club tests, rule, and Nightblade rules. All right. Guess he's not a nice guy. I'm going to go cage that Weasel as soon as I can find him. So you have all, no, you don't message a chat. You go on gmatclub.com and you message me, Nightblade354, the phrase GMAT Club test rule and Nightblade354 drools. Please send me a private message and you will, dude, Krishan, please stop spamming the chat. And you will be given free GMAT Club test if you're one of the first people. We may do first person. We may do first 10, first 20. It's going to be dependent on how many people message me. So there, present from the wacky GMAT Club Weasel. So thank you for all those who stuck around for that. Shubham, now let's go back to you, buddy. So we're on to our fourth exam, and we're starting to study. How long did it take you to study to go from your 660 to your 740?
Okay, don't get surprised. 15 days.
Yeah, that's surprising. That is very surprising. By the way, folks, in about 20 minutes, we're going to end in about 20 minutes, at which time GMAT Club is going to send you into a different video about our MBA fair. So please stick around for that. It goes live in literally 19 minutes. We're going to end and you'll be shifted directly over to that. So do stick around if you are interested in the MBA fair and getting a primer for it. That said, 15 days to go up. I'm not a quant expert. Let's call that 80 points. Let's hope I'm right. Otherwise, I'll look like such a fool. So you were talking about LSAT RC. I assume LSAT CR as well to help improve there. Or let me not put words in your mouth. How were you studying to bring up your score?
Sure. So I have been asked this a lot, that what did you do in those 15 days that brought you to a 80 points hike, right? So dear listeners, it wasn't those 15 days. It was that 1.5 years that I spent, to be very honest. I have done all these things in these 3 months on a very serious note, verbal as well as quant. So for my RC, to start with, just go through the Pass Course CR Bible. Just go through. That's a beautiful book for CR. Just beautiful. Besides, that really helped me. That was all for CR. And of course, Thursdays with Ron, GMAT Ninja, all the videos. Spend the time. It's worth it, to be very honest. Practice through LSAT. And this is the time where I activated my GMAT club tests.
The ones which we just gave away for free.
Yep.
Good timing.
So yeah, that's where I activated my GMAT club tests, and that was so insightful. I started giving sectional tests over full-time tests. That's where, through the analysis, I was able to see the weaknesses. Right? That's how it's designed, for you to know what your weaknesses are. So through these sectional tests, I got to know what my weaknesses are, and I could focus on that. And since my concepts were done, now all that was left was practicing. After my third attempt, I personally knew that I was in the best shape of my preparation. That's you who can answer that question. Because I thought that I've done everything that's possible, and probably it's the practice that's lacking. So I took a leave from office for 1 week straight, and I just delved into that GMAT club tests. I was doing 100 questions of quant per day, every day. And for verbal, it was 5 SC, 5 CR, and of course, 1 RC only. 1 RC only, because quality over quantity. That's what I would suggest. That really helped me. I was sitting and analyzing where I was making a mistake. I was going through those videos, those mega threads, to see that whether there's something relevant to my doubt. Just try to search things. Even in Google, you will be led to GMAT Club ultimately for your solutions. That is the thing. So I stuck with that. For my fourth attempt, what I did was, now is where I would like to speak about my error logs. The 1 week that I had before my exams, I did nothing but just my error logs. I maintained two kinds of error logs. One was conceptual and one was with questions. One was completely automated and one was completely manual. For concepts, I literally wrote them down for each and every section that I was practicing. The places where I was committing silly mistakes, I just wrote them down and I revised it every morning. I made sure that I revised them every morning. That was my conceptual error log, which I maintained. And the automated error log that I would say is, again, in GMAT Club itself. I don't know how many questions I've practiced till date. My aim was to exhaust all the questions in GMAT Club, which was another futile attempt of mine. You cannot exhaust all the questions out there in GMAT Club. I tried my best. But all the questions that I committed a mistake upon were automatically into that tab of error logs. That's the beauty of GMAT Club, right? So I just went to that tab and I practiced all the questions which I committed wrong, or which I took like 6 minutes to solve. I just practiced those, and I can tell you, during my exams, all my mistakes were like looping, because I just practiced it 1 week back. Error logs is all I did for that 1 week. Another thing, RC is not just another section. It's a process, to be very honest. For my 1.5 years, my preparation might have fluctuated, but one thing that I kept on consistently is 30 minutes of reading every day. Reading in the sense, not what I like to read, what I don't like to read. I subscribed Reuters, Wall Street Journal, and Economic Times, one after the other for
Mm-hmm.
1 month. I was also part of a lot of groups which sent in free journals of HBR and Bloomberg Business, which were like 100 to 150 pages. Just go through them. I believe I might have just gone through a few official paragraphs out there. I'm not sure, but there was very close because after reading those, after reading LSAT, I did not have to reread my passages ever again. Just one skimming and scanning through my passage, and I was done. I could spend more time over analyzing what the answer is instead of rereading stuff.
Hmm.
So these are a few things which also helped me. And those 15 days was just rigorous practice. But those 1.5 years was an entire process for RC. RC took comparatively a lot of time for me. Yep.
Again, it's a fairly impressive just mindset. You were able to go from being completely defeated to focusing, getting what you needed done, and subsequently having that score rise tremendously, especially in your weaker areas. And you did it so concisely. I can't remember another time where we had somebody who had a score rise so rapidly. But that said, again, we have about 12 minutes, folks, 11 minutes before we're going to kick you into that MBA primer. So, Shubham, I have two more things I want to hit on in our time, and I think we're going to make it timing wise, which is absolutely perfect. The first is I want to hear about your test experience. By the way, congratulations on getting your score. You utilized the club effectively, efficiently. You did everything that I think a proficient test taker should do to get a great score. So kudos to you on that one. I want to hear about your test day, and then I want to hear about your future plans. So tell me what was going through your mind on your fourth attempt. It's test day. You've put in all this time and effort. Not that GMAT is a sunk cost, but tell me what it was like going into that exam and how you kept moving through the exam and you didn't get stuck.
So as soon as I received my third attempt score, I got to know that there's a 15-day cooling period for you to book another exam. So I just booked it immediately as soon as my cooling period was over, because I knew that if I stretch it more, I might start forgetting things. I'm very bad at remembering things, and I knew that I was the best shape of my preparation, and I should go ahead with it. That's the confidence that I had for my fourth attempt. As I said, I was psychologically impacted once I saw an easy question towards the end of my quant. Same thing happened in my fourth attempt. Do you know? I got another easy question towards the end. I still had 4 minutes left after the quant section. But
Mm-hmm.
the difference was between the third and the fourth attempt, I went to GMAT Club and I searched about this query, whether there are other people who also received easier question towards the end. And do you know there's a discussion thread over this as well on the GMAT Club? And they said it's
We have everything.
yeah, and they said it's completely normal. People do get it. Don't worry about it. Don't mess up your further section. And I was like, this is what I just did, right? And I was feeling so confident, and this is the confidence which led me to book my exam just 15 days later. This was the reassurance I got from that discussion thread. So now coming to the test taking day, in my third attempt, everything was pretty smooth. No power cuts. Invigilator did not poke me a lot. Uh, Everything was fine. In the fourth attempt, what happened is I did not have my whiteboard eraser. Uh, I had three power cuts throughout my exam, three power cuts. Thank God I had my backup. That did not hinder my progress. Uh, by the end of my exam, my hands were completely black because they did not allow me to use the eraser. So I was left with nothing. You're not allowed a cloth. You're not allowed a paper. You're not allowed anything. My invigilator did not allow me to use any of these things. I was using my palm to erase my whiteboard most of the time. Besides that small little table calendar that you see behind me, they asked me to remove that as well. Nothing, absolutely nothing. In my third attempt, my entire process was through my laptop. I was verifying my IDs and everything through my laptop. And my fourth attempt, it went to my cell phone, which was locked outside my room, switched off. I ran there, I switched it on. There was 5% battery. It died while I was checking in. But the best thing was I started half an hour before my exam starts. So everything was done in time. It did not affect me. So make sure you log in half an hour. They tell 15 minutes, you log in half an hour before because you never know what might just come up. One day before, I just spent cleaning my room because I had a lot of sticky notes in my room, which had to be removed. I cannot keep that. And yeah, of course, I did a sprint session just before my exam of solving around 20 quant and 10 verbal questions to just get myself into the mood. And that was really helpful to me. And yeah, meditate a lot. A few habits that I inculcated throughout my journey was I learned how to solve the Rubik's Cube, which helped me shift my focus entirely from the GMAT preparation and solving it. And it just consumed me. So that really helped me in shifting my focus. I became a keen reader. I read a lot of articles and blogs, especially of Wait But Why. Those are very interesting ones, but I had to give up because you cannot practice reading something which you like to read, right? That's where your comfort zone is. And the third thing is whenever you're stressed, take a walk and speak to one of your friends. It will start by a conversation saying that, whether this exam is for me or not, whether I'll ever be able to break the 700 barrier. And it will all end up to be a joke for both of us. And that will really help you come down to a lighter note. That really helps. That really helped me out. So keep your friends closer, keep your family closer. Don't become socially isolated because of an exam.
I couldn't agree more. Friends and family are so important when it comes to having support network for those dark days when you feel like you're down, when you feel like you can't do it. That is a very big thing that can help keep you motivated and keep you positive. So that's great advice. With that said, again, so we have about 6 minutes left. Let's hear about your future plans. I assume you're taking your wonderful GMAT score and you're applying to some great schools. Uh, tell me what those are. What schools are you thinking about applying to? Um, what career are you looking at? What does that look like? Tell our
So
audience.
as I mentioned that it was too early in my career that I felt that I should settle down. I felt that I have to explore, and since I am so inclined towards public speaking, I wanted to make a transition from my technical background to a more customer facing job, right? So that's the reason why I wanted the GMAT to complete a little earlier so that I have an exact like 3 months and just look at how things turned out. I have just 3 months to prepare all my SOPs and LORs, and everything is working fine. So I'm just in time. I'll be applying this year, which is also my last year to apply for MIM programs. I'll be
Mhm.
applying to European B schools, but I would not say which one specifically. I would say European B schools, MIM programs, and I will certainly drop you a mail once I get through it.
I understand. What I don't understand is why you're not coming to America. Come on now.
MIM MIM is not really, famous out there. It's not popular there. An MBA is, but for that I need at least a 3 to 5 years work experience, which I'm not ready to spend. I'm really in the pace where I can study right now, and I feel that I have the zeal right now to study, and I really want to utilize that right now itself. So I want to change careers. I want to explore management, and that's my plan. And of course, I have to consider my ROI and the programs, employability rate, and everything. So after I've made that research, I've come up with European B schools. No offense, but that's what it is.
That's okay, none taken. So yeah, we have about 3 minutes left. At this point, do you have any last advice you want to give to our listeners before we conclude and before you all lucky people get to see one of the first primers for our MBA spotlight in the coming weeks? And by the way, again, as said before, go to it, go to all of them. We have events throughout the day. Tomorrow is, I believe, Michigan doing a Zoom with their AdCom. I will be there, so I hope to see a lot of you there. Great resource. But Shubham, sorry I stole your thunder there. What any lasting comments that you want our listeners to know?
Yeah, so I'll just quickly cover up something related to AWA and IR. AWA, Chinese burnt. That's it. Let's go for it. You're good.
Yep,
Five.
couldn't
I,
agree
I,
more.
I scored five. I scored five in both of my attempts just by going through the Chinese burnt template. That's it. That's all you need for AWA, to be very honest. Evan will update it soon, I suppose, in the general chat. So that is one. Second is IR. IR, try these Spotify podcasts by official GMAT and GMAT prep. Those are 30-minute podcasts that really helped me to understand, especially multi-source and table analysis. You have very little time for all the questions, 12 questions for IR, and a lot of data. So you need to know that you have to only read what's related and what's relevant. So I spent around 1 week for IR through these podcasts, and I practiced on GMAT Club itself. And AWA, I just spent 3 hours over the Chinese burn script, and I was good with a 5 all the time. Just 2-3 hours, that's it.
That's awesome. Chinese burned. So I don't have the ability to post it right now. Right now, I'm, again, operating on like 4 different computers, and I don't want to look away from the camera to post that. But Chinese burned. If you look that up on GMAT Club, it'll be one of the first hits. It's an AWA guide. It is probably, I think it's the single most liked post we've ever had on the forum.
Yes.
Which irritates me because it should be my post that's the most liked, but I can live with it. Go see that, and don't ignore AWA and IR. I've done a couple of videos with AdComs. We did a straight talk series a couple of months ago. They do pay attention to AWA and IR. It's not going to break your application, but if you don't do them, that's going to show them something. So do pay attention to them. They are important. Don't just say, well, it is what it is. That's not really a great approach. With that said, Shubham, you have had a couple of fans speak out. This one in particular, somebody just mentioned that. Sorry, wrong one. That's about RC. The person said they were dejected and that you've given them hope, and there have been a couple of messages like that. And folks, that's why we do these. It's why we need volunteers. It's why we need people to come and join myself or any other moderator for that matter who wants to do these. It's to help keep people motivated and going. It's to give them the hope that they're looking for, to understand that they can do it. So Shubham, thank you so much for joining us. This was an absolute pleasure. For those whose questions weren't answered, I think most of them, for example, RC was answered at the beginning of this chat. So if you feel that you didn't get your question answered, please watch a video again or post your question and myself or somebody else from GMAT Club can answer it. With that said, your GMAT Club tests, for those who messaged me and were one of the first ones, those will go live in probably a week or so. I need to coordinate with BB about that. And with that said, 114, we are going to kick you into the very lovely, yes, there's a debrief on GMAT Club. We're going to kick you over to the NBA spotlight right now. So thank you all so much, Shubham. Thank you, and we'll see you guys soon.